Welcome to The Life Engineer with Matty J. He unpacks and interviews guests to share the tools, components, and software that's needed to build a life and mindset by design versus one of default.
Josh, welcome to the podcast. Mason Anthony Dyson Roberts. Now, I wrote that down, and yesterday I went and picked up my wife, and her friend said, "Hello, Matthew." And you know when you think that's always what I get called when I'm naughty. Is that?
Ooh.
Do you get the full words when you come?
No one even really knows my full name. I actually just put it on my LinkedIn not too long ago. You know, because I remember when I was younger, I was just Dyson Roberts. Because I got the name, no one was called Dyson. It's before the Hoover, so that kind of stuck. And obviously, as I got older, I was like, no, I want to be called my full name.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I definitely don't get called it.
So it's Sunday morning. We've been trying to pin down this for a while. Just let's just go back to where we met, because it was a strange. We've not met. We met once.
Yeah.
Just go through back to where we met.
Yeah. So I hadn't been in the country for long because I was living in Bali, Indonesia. Actually, I think I might have actually still been there and just been back in the UK on a trip.
Yeah.
I remember having a coffee, doing a bit of work in a coffee shop down in Hammersmith. And
Costa, wasn't
it? It was Costa. It was Costa sitting upstairs, and I'm there working away. And I heard wellbeing or wellness. And obviously that's the world that I'm in. So my ears just picked up. You know, and I didn't, but he was on the phone. I think he was on the phone. Yeah, he must have been on the phone. I didn't want to just interrupt while he was on the phone. So I was thinking, had a little bit of a butcher. I was thinking, okay, it sounds like there's some alignment there. And it's very rare that I even go up and start speaking to someone like that. But you came up your phone. I remember saying, sorry, I just overheard your conversation, this, that, and the other. Let's have a chat. And that's how it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting I've done it a couple of times. That openness to connect and reach out is something that I've got much better at doing, like asking for help and connecting with people with synergy. I remember walking down. I used to do a walk along the beach once, and I walked past this guy in a camper van. And where we've got the seafront, there's a road that runs parallel, and he was sat in the corner of the camper van. And as I walked past, I remember thinking, that looks like design. Like it was an early morning. He was sat there with a cup of tea, and I didn't realise if I turned around, he was aligned with the sun.
Oh, nice.
And I remember thinking, I walked past, and there was a couple of things that day I thought, I wish I'd have done this. You know, when you catch yourself thinking, I wish I'd have gone with that intuition. Like, to have not said something means we wouldn't be here or have connected. But to say something, it opens it up. And I remember saying to him, like, it was the next day or a couple of days later, I walked past, and I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to say hello. And I said, and as I walked past, I said, that looks like by design. Like, you hadn't just sit randomly. He was there with a cup of tea, looking at the sun come up. And he said, yeah, he was. And it's funny, this guy looked like Jesus. And we started talking, and he invited me in. He put the kettle on. We had a cup of tea. And we sat there and we watched the sun rise out. And I connected to this guy. He was a carpenter, lived in Gillingham, which is about 20 miles away. And he used to come over. And he used to stay in his camper van on the Lees. He knew all of the people in the houses there, and they used to, give him stuff that he needed and that. But he just had this whole relationship there. But I remember thinking, who would want to sit and have a cup of tea by design versus default? Yeah. Because the default is you see someone that resonates, and I won't talk to them because I look like a twat, or it's rude, or whatever it is that stops, and it's not by design.
Yeah. I know what it is that stops. Us. It's the mind. It's the mind and the ego. I got a saying, the mind thinks, the spirit knows. You know, when people say, what's your gut? People go, how do I know what my gut is? What's my intuition? Because your intuition is the first thing.
Yeah. And
it might only be a split second, man. It's a split second. It can come and it can go. But that first thing, that first instant, I want to do that. Yeah. That was it.
The Tim Ferriss I follow. And he talks about a full body yes. And a mate came up last night who's so he's just qualified as a counsellor, and we was chatting, and he was talking about buying a house, and he's seen this house that he's actually committed to, and he was another one, and he had some financial advisors, and everyone in the mind was saying that he should go with another house. And as he was talking to me, what he was basically saying was that his body was saying, And this Tim Ferriss talks about, is it a full body yes? And asked himself and he's really quite anal, Tim Ferriss, like he'll calculate everything to a point, and then one of the things will be, is it a full body yes? And my mate was like, what do you mean? And it is a case of, how does that feel, and tuning into that. I remember my coach, and some of this stuff does make me laugh, especially you from an MMA background. You have to sometimes catch yourself probably thinking, I sound right woo-woo, like a proper like life coach. And my coach once made me deep breathe and then move my thinking from here to here, but in like a meditative. I remember it was like the weekend I went to Tai Chi. I remember feeling a twat doing it and just having to be more comfortable with that, sitting in that place, you know. And this is so I've got a sheet, I'll get it in a minute, the narrative. I've got a plastic sheet. Let me get it now. This is one of the things that I got into coaching for. So you can't see true colours there because it's full of shit that's been written.
Okay.
But underneath is it. But on top is that, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And underneath is that choice, that decision that you're...
What's that, true colours? Is that a chart?
So that's just my logo, Coaching for True Colours, because...
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, part of me thought, it was interesting when I started doing it, how difficult is it being authentic? And you think it's like, I say what I want to say. And when you get into it and really drill into it, it's actually really fucking hard in so many different levels. And I think working on that, you know, it's funny in so many different ways. It's funny how you can be 100% authentic, because I know I've been on one of your mindset stuff. When you start talking about certain things, if you go back to the MMA world or before then, you're going on about Mason, are you talking shit in you? What you got? You could be questioned on why you talk about sensitivity.
100%.
And suddenly, well, I can't talk about that because I'm going to look gay, too sensitive, weak. It's funny, I watched the thing with Mike Tyson the other day. Tony Robbins was chatting to him and he was crying so much. I think related to the man he used to be, like the ego. And it was quite nice to see Mike Tyson
being vulnerable.
Yeah, and that's where the link to boxing is. So I've got to tell you, just in case you ever feel like, that's my second place white collar boxing trophy that I got about 3 or 4 years ago. So we've done a white collar thing for charity. And I remember thinking in that ring, the vulnerability that you get, that you don't normally get day to day, it was extreme. For me, it was maybe sensitive, but I remember thinking I'd trained in the gym. I'd never really spent time sparring. So really I went from pad work, moving around, light sparring, road work and stuff like that, to in the ring. Someone trying to take your head off. And some. Yeah. So I talk about shifting where you're coming from. Like, if you was trying to kill my kids, you'd be dead. It would just be so, coming from a different place, and coming back to that vulnerability, and then thinking about places I've been where I've been exposed and worked on myself, and the environment I create for people. It's got to be a safe space, isn't it? Yeah. Well, especially working with men, that vulnerability always used to be seen as a weakness. Yeah, but it's, tell me how, like Mike Tyson's crying, what does that mean? Does that mean he's weak? No. What does that mean? It's only in our heads that we're not comfortable doing it, that we're thinking, well, they shouldn't be comfortable doing it as well. And I know people that are still uncomfortable even speaking about vulnerability, but that's just societal conditioning that we find ourselves in. Yeah, I think you can see it. I can see it in some of the sessions. Once people are ready to open, they're crying before they've spoken. At that permission,
Yeah.
To open up, and it's our job to make that space comfortable. Like if you was in a ring and someone started pulling a knife out, the referee and the coach would say, no, that's not, there's a space for this and there's rules. You know, you've got is it Queensbury rules?
Yeah.
That help you in that space prove out of you and me who's the best, or where you and me need to work. And I've explained to clients that it's going to be like a sparring session. You're going to get uncomfortable, so get comfortable with that. And at the end of it, we're going to find out where you need to work on, and that is the work. Because I remember sparring someone really good. This guy was like a world champion kickboxer, and he making it look so fucking easy.
Yeah.
And he didn't even have to throw punches. You know how simple it is being that level in fighting, and you got to a level with your MMA where if anyone came in the ring, there's probably quite a lot of people where you'd feel like you wasn't really being pressured or being put under pressure, that you could comfortably cope with that environment. You know, and then you would get to a point of stretch where someone would maybe challenge you. But that would be where the work is. You could spend all day sparring with me and learn fuck all.
Yeah.
And there's no work involved in there, you know, but I would find 20 things that I'd need to do. Lose weight, get fit is probably the first two. But that would be the work. And that space of vulnerability it is still funny how on so many levels that it comes up. Even now with what we're doing, there'll be some levels still where it's like, you know.
Yeah, there's always that kind of, ultimately we want to do the best, and sometimes you kind of think, what does that even mean? Even if we're coaching, we want to be able to coach better, and we'd be conditioned to think that everything has to be good. Do you know what I mean? We can't show any weakness. If we're trying to do something, we need to be good at it. And we don't take a time out to think, you know what? I'm not going to be good at everything I do. I mean, I am going to struggle with some things. I am going to need to ask for help. I'm going to need to, even when I was training and coaching, and said, if you don't know something in a question, in a session, it's okay to say, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Can you tell me some more? But yeah, it's that is us being vulnerable, having that admittance to that we haven't got all the answers. You know, and when people that I coach, and they get overwhelmed with not having the answers, I'm like, how do you expect to have all the answers? I mean, that's being vulnerable, just saying, you know, I don't know everything.
It's a bit like coming in the gym thinking they want to be Mike Tyson tomorrow.
Yeah, I remember going, even when I was having a fight, I don't think there was one fight that I ever had when I was in the change room warming up and they've called my name and I haven't totally shit it.
Yeah, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I haven't shit. Every time I was walking out, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm not doing it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. And then I'm in there and I'm okay. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm here for it. But it never goes away. That it's a fear. It's a fear. And I don't know many fights that haven't.
But that's the truth of fear, isn't it? If you look at what fear is designed to do, that environment is where you buy fear for. It's like, that's what you want to be protected for. Someone that's going to get in the ring and kick and punch your fucking face in until you're knocked out. That's what you want fear for, isn't it? My
training sessions were equally as hard as fights. I remember there was, we're going to the gym and there's certain guys and they've turned up. I was like, oh, fuck, Luke's here. Right? It's on now. It is a fight. And you do, it is fear. It's like, I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to do this, but you still do it anyway.
Yeah. And if you was to advise me on boxing, am I right that you have to be in that place to be comfortable at unpacking? So I remember seeing some guys in the gym that I was working at that went on Sky Sports. And I remember seeing what they were like in the gym and what they were like in the ring on Sky. And I remember thinking, where was that? Where were those tools they had? It's a difference between knowing it and unpacking it in that situation. And I remember thinking, I'm going to move quite a lot because I was quite good on my feet, and I thought I was quite technical. But then I remember being in there and thinking it was like you could have just said, forget it, just survive. try and take a breath
Yeah.
and not get knocked out. And it was funny. Well, I remember thinking afterwards I would have to submissively fall in love with and surrender to sparring as high a level as I can to make it normal enough to be able to deliver what I can deliver in that scenario. And it's the same, I think, with at every level, you know, from me starting up the podcast, from me doing videos, you know, there's that point of stretch that you've got to get to and sit with. So Anna was on the podcast talking about letting go for yoga. And I think in so much of this, the power is in letting go. Mike Tyson being willing to cry. That's the power in that, letting go. And in yoga is finding that stretch point where it's uncomfortable and then sitting there and it becomes normal, and then that's not uncomfortable anymore.
It's important to let go, because your mind does not operate to its capability when you're holding on to shit. Letting go brings a calmness to you. Like, everything that you've learned, you would be able to pull off in a fight down to the exact position. But if your mind is not letting go and you're holding on to fear, what if I get hurt? What if I could? You're not allowing the true essence of what's needed to express itself. You know, because we've all these people watching me, this, that, and the other. But if you was just to stop and just settle and just think, okay, let me just see what comes up, you'd be sleeping back. So everything you've done on the past, it would come out. But and that's the same with life.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you study for an exam or something, you've read it 1,000 times, but once you get in there, you're like, wow, what is it?
So it's like, so in it, I link a lot of I love the analogies. Yeah, I fucking love the analogies. So I link a lot of stuff. So engineering, like, I remember fitting a lift once and there wasn't the right filter on the lift. And in the block of flats we was in, every time we ran the lift, like, people's TVs used to interfere. They couldn't see the picture because I think it was something to do with the inverter in the drive unit would cause feedback back through the system. It was something to do with earthing on the client side of stuff. And it's a little bit like that noise that blocks out the truth, that interference, that in the ring, like, it was going so loud. I was like, I can. This is how I would explain it. And I think getting back to watching someone like Mayweather, getting back and seeing that centered point, and I talk about stance in boxing like in life, that having that stance of a centered point, which is now, and not thinking about what you've got to do in an hour or what you could have said or should have said or do. Being at that point now, there shouldn't be any pain. So if I think about going back into the ring, if you think about going back and sparring, those uncomfortable, you can get uncomfortable just thinking about it. You're time traveling out of it. And at being in that point, it's a bit like that, that tire to that tarmac, that very point of friction and traction in the now is ultimately where you want to be when you're performing, because then it just unpacks. And if you can't jab quick enough, then it's not because you're shit, it's because you just haven't practiced jabbing quick enough.
Yeah.
And then that's the work in going back into it. But it's funny how that interference can affect performance. And you can't cheat stuff.
No.
I don't know how you feel like with the coaching. It's funny, I talked to my coach the other day about him coming on. I remember meeting him. I've only met him once. I was up in Liverpool working. We met him. He was a Scouser. He's out in Europe now. But we met and we talked. And we had one of these sessions where we just talked for like 2 or 3 hours. It was excellent. And he was saying, basically, this company wants him to build a website. But it was almost like he didn't have anything to put in the store yet. And as you start developing your skill set and start creating content and that, you start unpacking stuff. It's a bit like going in the gym and not really having any set pieces. And now if we got in the ring, you'd be like, yeah, gosh, double jab. You have all of these things.
All the tools, yeah.
And if you haven't got them, you haven't got them, and the work is unpacking them. So it's the same in what we're doing now. One of the reasons I do the podcast is to be able to talk like this comfortably and not be recording and talking to a video, because it's more comfortable for me. It's better to my style.
Yeah.
But essentially, we're putting out content for people to come and engage in what we offer. But
Yeah.
and it's part of the work, you know. You think you're going to be a coach and then go, I'm a coach, and everyone's going to come and give you loads of coaching. It doesn't work, does it?
It doesn't work like that at all.
A bit like trying to throw a punch and not being in position.
Mm.
So come back to I wanted to ask about your MMA and your boxing stuff and where you got into coaching. Do you want to just talk back and give us a bit of a journey?
It's been a long journey. The fighting happened when I went to uni. Went quite late, but I knew that I wasn't really cut out for the normal 9 to 5. It was no one I knew was in a 9 to 5 at that time, and I had a few friends that was training. They said to me, "You should come down. You should come down and train." I was like,
so had you fought at all by that point? Or
not professionally, no. I trained in the gym. I'd done karate as a kid, and as you do. And the only fighting that I'd done was on the street, in clubs with bouncers and that sort of stuff. And I remember being at home and they were watching UFC on the screen and saying to my mates, who's all around having a beer, I was like, I'm going to fight. I'm going to do that. And they're like, oh, shut up. No, you're not. Shut up. Can't hear it. And then it's like everything aligned for me, because not long after that, my mate said, oh, you should come and train with us. Went and trained, and there was a few guys that were fighting in that gym that were already in the UFC. And I was like, and I remember the coach was saying, you've got talent, you should try and compete. And I was like, nah, I don't really want to compete. I'm not really into it. It takes this discipline and this work, and I'd rather just do what I'm doing. And then another mate was working on this TV show. He was, can't remember what his role was. He said, we're doing a TV show for fighters. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, because it's a competition. Everyone from the UK are going to be coming down, auditioning, and they're going to fight each other to get to the final, this, that, and each other. And I was just like, everyone keeps telling me about these opportunities to fight. I was like, yeah, go on, sign me up. So I went for the audition. I remember I nearly missed the audition because I had a flight to catch. I was going to Marbella. My mate said to me, goes, haven't you got your audition today? And I was like, oh shit. I goes, can you take me to it before I go to the airport? And he goes, yeah, cool. So he took me there. And I was too small for the show, because I weighed about 80 kg at the time, and it was light heavyweight show, so it was for 93 kg in MMA. And now there's like, oh, we really want you on the show, but you're too small. I was like, yeah, well, this is it. What can I do? I remember my last day on holiday, I was on my way back to the airport. I got a call saying, look, we know you're small. Can you put on 4.5 kg? Because that just puts me in the threshold. And I was like, yeah, probably. And I remember being in the airport and I was hanging. I'd been drinking and partying all week. The last thing I wanted to think of was fighting these giants. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I remember they sent a film crew to my house a few days afterwards. Because what are you going to do? I goes, I'm going to eat. I was eating whole chickens each day and just putting on the weight. Anyway, I put the weight on, got on the show. Fought a pro boxer for the quarterfinals, because everyone was getting eliminated. Took him down, choked him out. Fought a guy that was 6'6". I'm 5'11". 6'6" on the second fight. Got him down. Ground and pounded him, knocked him out, dislocated his shoulder.
So what was your speciality? Was it like jiu-jitsu? Was you used to that? No,
but the form of karate that I'd done, it was Bagajudo, so it was ground, it was grappling, it was striking, it was kick. So I was pretty well-rounded. I needed a touch-up. I was still quite raw. But, yeah. And I knew that my aggression was part of what made it.
Yes.
And then I got into the final, which was live on Bravo. Then it went on to Sky Sports. I lost in the final, lost in the third round, but we headlined an event where all the pro fighters were below us, because we was on this TV show and everyone was following us. It had a lot of eyes on it. Headlined the event and got fight of the night. The guy was 10 kg heavier than me. Got to the final round. I remember the first round. And this is when, I don't think I've ever been hit so hard, or this is when the pressure really got on, because the first two fights, first fight was easy, second fight was I wasn't confident in it. The third fight, I just thought it was just going to be an absolute war. I remember in the first round being hit so hard, hearing ringing in my ears, and I just felt my face just crunch. Luckily, it was at the end of the round. I remember turning around, I see my mum in the corner, and she's just like that, and my mates are with her, and I was like, "Mum, I'm okay." And as I said, "I'm okay," blood just went, just went out my mouth. And I remember my corner man going, "You got this, you got this." I couldn't hear anything. It was just ringing. All I just knew is I've still got to go out again and fight in 5-minute rounds. Got to go out. So I went out for round 2. Was giving it. I started to get phone punches. Both of our faces were just marked up. Went back to the end of round 2. I was like, I just want this to be over. I remember I wanted out. I was like, this is absolutely horrific. But then I went out to the third round, still just giving it all. Before the last round, the geezer got on top of me and choked me out. And that's when I got a taste of it. I was thinking, I'm happy that's over, but I'm not happy that I lost. I feel like I had more to give. And then I remember looking up, and there was like 3,000 in the arena at the time. And looking up, I was thinking, this is a bit of a buzz. I like this. And that was it. So what was supposed to have happened was the fact that I lost in the final would have been it. But the promoter, he said to me, "Look, I know you lost in the final, but it's such a good fight. We want to see you fight again. Do you want to come and fight for us?" And I was like, yeah, why not? And that was it. So I thought, but I had a lot of injuries. And I didn't fight as consistent as I was. I was always there training in the gym. But back then, we're going like 10, 15 years ago now.
Yeah.
When I first started.
Was that paid? Was this?
Yeah, it's all paid. Yeah. It's all paid, sponsors, everything.
So this was your job then?
It's yeah. But we didn't have like the nutritionists that they have now. We didn't have the physios that it is now. The training was still very raw. So we'd be going into training, knocking 7 bells out of each other, which isn't good for your body.
And this is where, so the idea of the life engineering is the components that make stuff up. So like they're not having the aftercare maybe to get your body right, not having the nutrition to get your body, give it all the fuel it needs. These are components that make a difference, that would have made a difference in hindsight now, and that's what I'd like to try and unpack. The other thing that you said, which I think resonates, and I'm doing a lot of work now about shifting. So in engineering, we do standard control panels which have transformers. So the source is 415 volts, and then you tap it down to 240 volts, 110, 55 volts, or 24 and 12. You take what you need depending on what you've got to do. But something like that fight, you need to tap into. If I'm going to drive a lift, you can get a small lift that works on 240 volts, but generally they're 415 because you're not fucking about. They're, the big car lifts and stuff like that. The power that's needed. So when you get behind and shift and align for something, how you turned up compared to someone else, would you say there was a notable difference in the results, in the components of how you turned up? Forget about the technicality.
100%. It's like a good example for that is like we all have the potential. We probably give on our own, I would say 40 to 50% of what we're capable of. When you're operating higher than that on your own, you're almost superhuman. We have so much limitations on what we think we can do. And you notice like going back to training, there's days when you'd go into gym and you would absolutely boss it. Everyone would say, you was on today. And you go back a couple of days afterwards and you would get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
I was thinking, how could he kick my ass? I'm better than that.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's a weird concept when you think about it. You think, you've got more. Why aren't I giving it? And that's with life. That's with work. With hours putting in.
When I talk about what I do is mindset, alignment, and meaning. Alignment is the bit that sets it up. So different components in a circuit, you can realign from, with different components, you can change it from AC to DC. You can drop down to 12 volts. So if you're putting your kids to bed, I always remember shifting when I used to go and put my daughter to bed with this thing where I used to have to try and get to her give her a kiss goodnight but she used to have to lay there with her eyes shut and not laugh. And then I used to have to try and get to her, and in between me getting to her, I had to try and make her laugh.
Yeah.
She'd get so mad because she just couldn't keep her straight. Why do I laugh?
Yeah.
I remember that coming in that place is such a different. You're coming from a different place, but then knowing to shift. And I remember when I did my white collar, and I got in there like I was already a winner because I had got there, and that was it. It was a bit like the man that walks past the 100-meter line, whereas the guy that got in there, I think, saw it as 125 meters.
Yeah.
And it was. I just remember thinking again, if I went back there, I wouldn't be so naive that it was just a white collar charity event, and I would come from a place of this fucker is dead.
Yeah.
100%. And I think that alignment, and I did this with businesses. I used to sit there sometimes and be in a lift business, wanting to be doing my coaching and being of conflict. And we talk about this in hydraulics, you either fully engaged, you're fully off, or you're in some kind of conflict, and you can hear it in the hydraulics.
Oh, what was that? When it's in motion, do you mean?
Yeah, so in conflicting. So when the lifts slow down with hydraulics, they put these valves in which they conflict the oil. They constrict the oil. So there's a conflict there until it stops. And it's a bit like that in life. You don't want to be throwing out two punches. You want to be driving one punch nice and clean at a time. And in life, it's not getting in that conflict. So when I'm in business, sometimes it's like when we was fitting lifts, if the guys are busy and the pit's got to be clean, then I'll clean the pit. I won't be coming from I'm a director, I don't need to be doing that. I'll fucking clean the pit and change my hat. And I do it now. Like I'm in a podcast. I'm not coaching now. I'm in a different scenario. When I coach, I change and shift and come from a neutral point. And then depending on what happens in the session, but I remember I get to a point where that's the point I'm coming from. And then afterwards, I'm going to go and I'm going to work on the house. So I'm going to get changed and cup of tea, get the tools out. I'll be coming from a different, and shifting in business. It's like shifting in life. I think when you can see the problem a lot of the time is people are fixed, which is why I like MMA. If the boxer stood there like a boxer in MMA, he wouldn't last long, would he?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And it's shifting, like you say. Okay, well, and you change your stance. If we was in the ring now and suddenly I started coming to your legs, you would change your stance straight away, wouldn't you?
You need to know how to be flexible. You need to be able to adapt. And that's where people, well, not all people, but many people struggle and fall short because they don't know how to respond to the changes in life. They'll get such, like the current climate, for example, people are taking this on so many different levels. Some people think, oh my God, what am I going to do? Some people are like, okay, well, this is happening. What can we do with this?
Shift. They say Muhammad Ali, and I think a lot of the great fighters, one thing they're good at is shifting very quickly. So I was going to approach the fight like this. Suddenly, that's not working. Instead of just carrying on, shift and change. And that, I think that submissiveness to change. Whereas if you're fixed, and you're coming from, if you was coming from that MMA type the whole time, and then you wanted to go and get a relationship, do you want to go on a date?
It's not going to work.
It can't work, can it? You have to change and soften and, and come from a different place. And I like the analogy with, it's just as effective. Well, it's how you smash the shit out of life, same as you do in the ring, is find those ways, because it may be you don't know a way. If I went and tried to do MMA, I've got no idea how to choke you out. I'll have a go. But I watch I watch my mentor in I Want to Be Joe Brogan. I haven't got the dumbbells up here yet, but when he chats to people about MMA and talks about getting in a triangle and that, I still don't know what he talks about, but you can see the set pieces that he's in this chokehold, he's trying to get around the back, and you can almost see like he's making a cup of tea, he's got the cup out. There's that process that they're seeing that I don't see, because I haven't got that upgrade. And in life, to shift effectively, if you want to get into MMA, you've got to get the upgrades. Same as you want to be a coach, well, you better get used to marketing and sales, because no one's going to be knocking on the door. There's another upgrade needed, isn't there?
100%.
And if you come from a fixed point, you're going to get knocked out or put on your ass, because it won't.
That's just life. This is life as a thing. I heard a quote. Actually, it wasn't even a quote. It was something that Joe Rogan did say. It goes, you can't get better by being the same. You know, if you want to improve, you can't just do what you've always done. And it's sort of like with life situations, if somebody's like this, just plodding along, and in life comes like this, and they're not ready to try and move, they're just going to be trying to fight life. And it's just a constant battle. But when you are able to kind of accept life for this and just knowing that you're not going to change life, whatever happens to you is going to happen regardless. But what you do have the ability to do is just to be able to slip.
And I think coaching is a bit like having that guy in the corner. You know, after a session, the guy in the corner can be like you was too flat-footed, or, you know, that session unpacks that work. And it may be that work is you don't know enough about working on the floor. You don't know enough about floor work. Well, then you go off, and the client signposts themselves on the work they've got to do. But with coaching, it gives you that perspective to see that differently, because most of the time people are just. I remember sparring with someone like me, and it was like it was just a mess.
Yeah.
But then speaking to the coach afterwards, I remember him saying the guy was really tall, and he said, "Don't try and hit him. Try and hit him there. Don't actually try and hit him in his face. Try and hit him there." And him seeing that from a distance, like saying to a client, "Okay, well, why is this so complicated?" And getting them to stand back and look at the process, like a circuit diagram. You know, you're not getting enough calls, or you're getting work, but the jobs aren't making profit. And just seeing back at that circuit, almost that scenario, that combination of punches. Well, what can you shift and change? And it might be getting in a better position. You know, if someone's trying to uppercut and they're not, you've got to change where you're coming from when you uppercut, haven't you? So that process gives them that view that you can then go away and work and see better.
Yeah, you need different eyes on it. It's like the saying goes, the fish doesn't notice the water it swims in.
Yeah.
You know, when you're so involved in something, it's hard to get a different perspective, because unless you train as a coach or practitioner or therapist, you very much as in your situation. You don't take an objective view on any given situation that's happening for you. Whereas doing the work that we do, we might understand that something's coming and thinking, okay, that's not working. Let me just step back and just see what I can do to change this environment. You know, whereas the majority of people that haven't done the work, they're still very much in okay, well, this isn't working. I'm going to try harder. I'm going to push harder. Going harder. I do the same exact thing because they haven't even got the foresight to step back. Do you know what I mean? To reset. You know what I mean? To try and change the game plan, because they've not been taught to it. Like even with me, like even working with my coach, I'll speak with her, and like, we all know what we need to do. And obviously, she just asks a few questions, and she helps me unpack what needs to be unpacked. Oh, okay, that was it. You know, and I think it's weird. I'm not just being biased because I am a coach. I just feel that everybody could be a little bit better, give that a little bit more if they worked with a coach. And the good analogy about that is when you go to the gym and work out by yourself, you might work out to here. If you've got a personal trainer that you're working with, you're going to push yourself, you're going to get to here. It's no difference with a coach. Live your life, you might live your life today, you work with a coach, you're going to be able to get.
But you've got to be willing for that uncomfortability, haven't you?
You've got to be open to it. Oh yeah, and you've got to recognise that you haven't got all the answers. You know, you need to recognise that. But that's what I find.
You there? Yeah, mate, he froze.
I find power in that because I know that me having that admittance means that I'm going to get through it, means that something's going to come of it. Whereas if I don't want to admit it to myself or anyone else, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, and it is like standing in a room full of mirrors, isn't it? That every area, and this is where this bullshit can catch you out. That unless someone like puts the truth on it, the clarity on it, and you can see it. I remember that this guy that I was sparring, that was this world champion. I remember what I was doing when I was stepping forward towards him and throwing a punch, and every time he would just step to the side, and then as I come past, he would just bump me on the head.
Counter, yeah.
It was so simple what he was doing, but I couldn't see any of that. I would go back and do exactly the same, and all he was doing was stepping. And he just explained it afterwards, and it was almost like I just, in slow motion, everything come clear. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that.
No, fighting is a great analogy and how life is, because you've got different combos, you've got different things, but when you're under pressure, you tend just to go back to your one thing. Like, some people, they might, in a situation, they might cry, they might shout, they might retreat. That's their go-to. Like, and if every situation happens, you might plan for something else, but you always go back to your default. Do you know what I mean? So if you're fighting and all you do is want to throw a big overhand right, once you're panicked and things get pressured, you're just going to keep going back to the default because you haven't taken time just to relax and settle. And
if they see that, which is what you're going to be doing as a fighter,
yeah,
then they're going to get set up and come from a different place to knock you the fuck out.
This is it. And it's exactly the same with life. If you try and fight life with the same weapon or the same tool that's never worked for you, how do you expect it to change? How
many people out there are still in conflict with this virus because they haven't shifted fully?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And the pain in this conflict, that this shouldn't be how it is, versus this is how it is, and change. And I think that having that space to do it. I mean, one of the things on here, I put down that moment. So in the work you've done, then so in that boxing analogy, another one for me with boxing was when I used to get anxious or exhausted, Ray said to me, just for a moment, drop your hands and just walk the ring. So you're in a corner and you're working and I would just come out and I would literally drop my hands down and just walk like 2 or 3 or 4 steps
to
catch my breath and then come back in. And I remember feeling uncomfortable because it seemed cocky.
Yeah.
But I remember that reset almost was magic to just give you that energy to come back. So that's in boxing. In coaching, have you had a couple of things that's made a shift for you in the work you've done on yourself?
In myself or with clients?
Either.
Well, with clients, I realised that you have to adapt.
As a coach.
As a coach, before obviously you've got all your frameworks, and you've got your ways of communication, and you've got your reflection, and all these kind of to-dos as a coach, the go-tos. Which I get it; it's good to know, but for me, in action, it doesn't work with everyone, and it's not meant to. So I've had to be very on my P's and Q's when I'm coaching, because it's like, okay, well, this person needs me to approach them in this way. And that's my aha moment. Some people just need me to show up. Some people kind of want me to guide them into different ways. They want the questions. They need a specific answer. And it's been quite fluid. So the big aha moment means that it's not worth having, I know you're not supposed to, but having any kind of plan. Okay, I know what this.
I think the set pieces are worth practicing in the gym.
Yeah, they're good to have.
Yeah, I remember a guy, we shifted from FaceTime to voice only on a call because he started getting upset. He was in a hotel and he shifted to an area where he could basically cry on the phone. And I remember that I completely changed how I was talking, what space I gave him, how we were communicating. And then on the opposite, I remember this woman who was 65. I remember saying to her, like, what would you do if you was being less of a prick about this?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, no one's ever said that to me before. But then she bam, 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 bam. And it was almost like she needed a little bit of a slap just to open up. And it's I think you'll find it's that freestyle of you need to have the tools, but don't go into every fight aggressively, because if he's extra aggressive,
you might not need to use them. You don't need to use them all the time. Do you know what I mean? And that was, I think, my big, and it's, I prefer it that way because it makes each session a lot more genuine.
I think that's why I like the podcast, because I started doing videos and I'm like, I've got points to go through and I've got to talk, but it just felt there was no connection or, you know, so that was one then. So being flexible, or not having too much of a plan, I suppose.
But just not having any plan at all.
Just fully present.
Just pure presence, and just allows you to connect and your intuition. Like when you really feel to say, what does this client need from me today in this session? What does this client need for me to do? And that has been the biggest. Yeah, that's been the biggest aha moment.
So what's another one with you, or so what got you into it? Because we talked about how you got into coaching. So it
was working with a coach, myself, and also everybody always used to ask me for advice. And I've done a lot of work. I've done work that people would think was woo-woo. I've meditated with monks in silence in the mountains of Java. I've done ancient Amazonian plant medicine ceremonies. I have done some crazy bonkers stuff, man, I tell ya. And then when I kind of got into the wellness space with my company Mindwork, I wanted to be a bit more hands-on. And I used to work with coaches, to get coaches to come and deliver stuff. And I was thinking, I want to see what this is about. And so I done my training, started speaking with clients. I was probably horrific at first, not really knowing what I should be doing.
That's a bit like going into the gym for the first time, isn't it?
Yeah, everything's learning.
Yeah, you look back now, it's I can't believe it.
Yeah. And so what was the question? How did I get into it?
So what did you said you worked with a coach. So why did you go and work with a coach?
Well, it was a coach that I hired to come and work with some of my clients, my corporate clients. So I was going to hire him, but then it just turns out he ended up started coaching me. And I liked how it was. And he was an executive coach, but I liked what he was doing with me. And it was more of just to see what it's about. I'm quite curious anyway. And I've been quite entrepreneurial. I've done quite a lot in terms of companies and stuff. I was thinking, I've never done this. But every time, all the things that I've done before this, even with fighting, the reason why I stopped fighting was due to injury. But everything I've done, I've always been looking for other things to do. You know, well, I don't feel like this is changing me enough. Maybe I'm going to try something else. I'm going to try something else. And working in the space that I'm in now is the first time I've never been interested in doing anything else other than what I am. So that was a good indicator that I'm on the right path. You know, it took me long enough to get here, but I'm like, okay.
Do you know what it is about? Do you know what it is about what you're doing now that's aligned so much?
I think it's because it's ever evolving.
Right.
I think it's because you need to be on your A game. If you're putting yourself out there as someone that's going to bring value to another human being's life, you need to make sure you're fucking good. Because this isn't a space where you can come in half-hearted and just... I'm sure there's a lot of charlatans out there doing it, couldn't care less, but I really do care. As I work with, I really do want to make the world a better place.
Funny, it's a similar system with the lift industry. So in the lift industry, you can get qualified pretty quick as someone that can install lifts, but probably only one type of lift. It's like becoming a chef at McDonald's. And then walking around thinking you're a McDonald's chef, and then you say, "Can you do me cheese on toast?" They're like, "I know."
I don't know how to,
But no, don't do that. And it's a bit, and I think it's a little bit like that with the coaching. When you first set out, I remember getting qualified, and I remember thinking, like, is everyone going to ask me if I've got a qualification? But does it matter? Like the piece of art you buy because it moves you, it doesn't really matter how the fuck they put it together. That they move you, and they may never have even gone to art school, but they move you. And I think it is an art, but I think you still have to, a bit like the Mike Tyson, you still have to do you have to set the pieces of work to be able to unpack and have those tools when it comes to it, knowing you've got to put someone in a corner or let them have some space to entice them out. And I can't remember what my point is. What was we talking about?
You're talking about you said the lifts about
and coming back to the engineers, that the depth of knowledge to make a qualified engineer, you've got to go so much into knowing what kind of current voltage is. There's so much depth in taking a circuit diagram and reading it, and if you're not used to taking 20 circuit diagrams and reading them, the next one's going to be hard. So it's a bit like the fighting. If you're only a boxer who fights a certain style, and then you get put into MMA and you have to fight a range of styles and weights, you haven't got that flexibility and variety. And I think it's the same with coaching, that you
need it. And I think it challenges, especially if you want to do well in this space. There's so much you can do with it, whether you want to write books, whether you want to be a speaker. I mean, all the things you can do in this space. I think that's what.
But you can't cheat it, can you?
You cannot cheat it.
That may say to you, I'm a world champion boxer.
You cannot cheat it. You know
and we start sparring, you'll be like, he's out of breath already.
I think you might be able to cheat it for a few seconds. So I think there are coaches out there that give it a good go and just have all the spill. But when it comes to the authenticity, when it comes to working with clients, I feel that you really would get exposed quite quickly. If you want to go out and speak in front of thousands, you need to have something special about it. You need to care.
Yeah, and you need to have done the work. I think you can jump steps in 2, 3s or 4s or maybe even 5s if you've got long legs. But you can't do it in 10s. So for me with the podcast, this is my 5th. You know, and I look back now and like then I lost. What am I talking about? You know, there's a point where it's like, but I quite like that. But there's a point where there's a system for working, like there was for coaching, and there is for marketing, and there is for content creating, and you're doing the work. And this is where it flips. That then it comes down to habit.
Yeah.
So to do your MMA. You have to spend. How many times have you jabbed? It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Jabbing jiu-jitsu. I remember my jiu-jitsu instructor said when we first started, and we was doing triangles and arm bars, to go, how many times you're going to do this until you get it right naturally? Because it goes well over 1,000. And I probably, well, of course, I've done it well over 1,000 times, but it's literally they'll have you repetition, bam, bam, bam.
Just explain, what is a triangle? Because Joe Rogan talks about
a triangle is, so if I'm having a triangle execute onto me, my arm, essentially I'm choking myself out with my shoulder. You're on your back. Your leg is, your knee would be over my back. Oh, it's really hard to explain. I won't be able to do it from here, but it's your leg and your feet is like crossed. Right. Your leg is in a triangle.
So it's my leg that sort of almost grabs your arm.
So your foot would be here.
Yeah.
Down here. Your knee would be here, and your other foot would be over this foot, and you'll be pulling it down, and I'm like that.
And that chokes you out.
So it chokes me out. Yeah. It's an amazing move. Amazing submission.
And isn't it interesting, the components? You know, in everything. When I talk about people that want to get more sales, want to be more profitable, want to drop weight, it's not the big things, is it? You know, for me, so I'm dropping weight at the moment. For me, one of the things I've realised is my planning. Like, I know what I've got to do. I know what I've got to not eat. but it's almost getting myself in a position to think of that before. Because if I leave it till I'm hungry, then I'm eating whatever's there.
Yeah.
So it's being in that position, like on a motorway. You have that 3, 2, 1 before you take a junction.
Yeah.
If you leave it to the junction, it's going to be so hard. But if you get in position, and that's one of the things that I think I've seen with myself, is get myself in a position to take that next meal much more comfortably, and align with it. And sometimes that's the work in businesses, going back to the communication thing, not being able to shift and talk to a certain type of person in your team will limit you, because that certain type of person might be the anal fucker that will mean you're getting paid, or you're not paid for something, because he's attention to detail. He might drive you mad because he wants to know everything. My missus is like that, which is why I brought her into the business, and it makes me so mad sometimes, but I know that I need her.
The meticulous one.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. No one wants to work on the defence side of stuff if you're an aggressive fighter, but if you then get stuck in a corner,
where you need to, and
you haven't got it. So I think it's I think we got set pieces, 0 point we talked about. We made some notes down there. Coming back to that 0 point of presence and stance. You know, how important is it to have a stance in boxing?
I think the most powerful thing we can do as coaches and as humans, as a rule, is just be humble. Just kind of forget everything you know, and just start from scratch, and just approach everything with curiosity. You know, there's another quote. I love a quote. So you need to open your mind, because it's the only way new things can get in. You know, because everyone has you need to remove the lens in which you see the world, because sometimes it can be quite linear for you. You've got your blinkers on because this is what you do, this is how your world is, and there's so much here going on that you will miss.
It's fixed, isn't it? You're being fixed.
You've already programmed yourself. So if you can kind of, when someone talks about, for example, COVID-19, everyone goes, you have to do this, you have to do that. I'm like, you're saying what you've read in the papers. There are 1,000 other different stories, narratives, experts saying something totally different. But you've just chosen on one, and you're being really aggressive with that, really staunch with that opinion, you know. And you're like, well, this is what it is, this is what it is, this is what it is. And like,
but you can see that now, can't you?
Yeah, but
you may have got in conflict with them before.
No, I wouldn't even get in conflict. Before, I'd have just said, I'm always the same. Like, I remember saying to my mates, always the time when a group that we was in, it's like, boys, don't just read the papers and they go, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, no, I'm not saying the papers aren't true. I'm just saying there's other options for you to look into. And that's with life as well. Like, even if somebody says something about me or what I believe, I'm like, well, I don't believe that to be true, but I'm open to hear. Unless I know from experience, I'm open to hear what you think about it. So some things are objective, some things are subjective, some things we have no fucking clue about. And from that alone just means that we have to be curious and open. So just really start from the base, like as if Rich.
I started doing some work. So I volunteer coaching in the community. We've got a charity locally. And when I started working with some people, I realised they weren't ready for coaching.
Oh, yeah.
Like my dad says to me, don't want for nothing and you don't go wrong, you know, and he works out, his dad and his granddad never worked. And then you're sort of sitting there with all the shit you're trying at them, and it's like they're not even open to it. So we started to create the Watering Man Camp, which is a workshop. And it's a bit like planting seeds. You know, there's a lot of like grass seeds. You soak them the day before you lay them to get them open. And some of the work is getting people warmed and opened to doing the work. And you've got some friends, like we can have a conversation. We've never even met other than that first time and have a conversation, and we spoke for an hour openly about stuff. You got other people like, yeah, I don't believe in that shit.
Yeah.
You know, straight away, and you're like, well, you know, and then no, I got a mate of mine who says I'm part of cults, you know, and he's open to it, but he takes the mick that that it's just something else, and they're not even open to it straight away. I've got a lot of friends that have got no idea what I do.
What I say to my mates about that, I've got an analogy that I remember I was in having a bit of discussion with a pal, and like, so when I done this ceremony in the jungle where you drink ayahuasca.
Oh yeah.
It's
Tim
like,
Jones talks about that. That's
yeah,
hallucinogenic, isn't it?
DMT, yeah.
What was that like?
You you travel to a different place,
Yeah.
and it sounds bonkers. I am such a normal guy. Everyone goes, "Are you spiritual?" I go, "Yeah." It goes, "It doesn't mean just because I don't wear beads and all like that, you've got this whole stereotype about what it means to be spiritual." My definition of it is that I feel that there's something more than this skin of suit that we're in. You know, all the other senses, like knowing what, when thinking about someone and them calling you, and all these things that. Anyway, I digress. So when I'm talking to people about this stuff, like, "No, I don't believe that. I think we just this, that, and the other." But what you just essentially said to me is, it's like me saying to you, "There's a purple car outside," and you saying, "No, there's not." I'm like, "Go and have a look." And you're like, "No, I'm not going to go and have a look, but I'm just going to tell you there's not." So, I mean, that is the definition of a closed mind. Don't argue a point of something that I'm trying to share to you if you're not willing to go and have a look. If you go and have a look, not out the window, if you go downstairs, have a look, and come back and go, "Yeah."
They don't realise. I mean, I've read a bit about this, and I'm interested in it, but it's not like doing acid in a park, is it?
No.
So, and it's funny because it'd be interesting, because I think some of me got in a bad place because of doing the wrong things in the mindset in a certain environment with certain people, and I think it would be interesting to see if I can come out even deeper with doing the same thing with the right people in the right ways, because from what I've read of it, it's a powerful. So he talks about it like you've got a telescope to look at the stars and a microscope to look at the atoms, and this gets you to look at your soul almost, or your mindset almost, that window.
With DMT, so ayahuasca and DMT, the same active compound. When you go, you don't go out up there, you don't go, you're inwards, you just are. It's like everything's around you. And how I define it, sort of like, what do you see? I goes, well, I just feel that everything's around us. I go, but why can't we see it? I goes, can you see Bluetooth? Can you see radio waves? Can you see microwaves? Can you see sound? All these things that are frequencies that are around us that we can't see, they're there. You know, so if you look at it on the quantum level, it goes that we just operate on a certain frequency. I can't remember our bandwidth for human, but there's whole other dimensions happening literally around us that we just can't tap into. And these kind of gateway substances like DMT or ayahuasca or whatnot that have been used through thousands and thousands of years by shamans and ancient civilizations, that now it just sounds so far from what we know in the Western world. But you go and speak to Aboriginals, you go speak to the Mayans, you go and speak to certain parts of Africa and in India, and that they've been doing these things for thousands of years. It's like, yeah, of course, there's normal. Yeah, there's another world that we just can't see. That's their normal.
But I think that makes a good coach as well. That I use it as it's the synergy. You know, it's like synergizing with someone on a certain level. That if you're open to that, and I think that's where that openness comes in to being a good coach. That whether you're talking to a business person or whatever, if you can synergize and align with them in terms of energy, then it's easier to connect and open and relate to. And I think that's almost that first stage of operating in that. And it is deep, though, is it? It is
so deep. It's so deep. And I don't really talk about it with everyone because I meditate every day. I've done for years now. And I believe everyone can. I believe in people's potentials, even if they can't believe in their own. You know what I mean? I feel that we've all got the capability to do some amazing things. And I reckon when you've got that as your default, as your belief, it's easier for other people to see that in themselves. You know, I've got 2 clients that have just joined this program I've started. 2 women. One's older woman. She's been doing HIIT workouts with me 3 times a week and pushing herself. She goes, I thought I'd never be able to do this, but because we're coaching around it as well, we're working on the mindset first. So I believe that the mind matters most. I think it's pointless you trying to start a new exercise regime or trying to start a new business if you haven't done the work first, because your mind is just going to make you go to your default things.
It's like a dog on a lead, isn't it? A dog on a lead that you just wherever you take it, it's going to go. whether that's stretching yourself to work out harder or sitting on the couch and do nothing. That work, and that it's going back to the lifts. You know, every lift that comes out has got a potential going 99 floors. And you go, it's exactly the same lift that goes 10 floors that goes 2 with some mods, but generally it's the same. It's just one software that changes that potential.
So everyone's got the ability to go to 99 floors, but because of their social conditioning, depending on where they've been brought up, who they've been around, and everything else, they think they can only go 1, 2, or 3. You know, so it's just about being able to help them open up their minds and start to believe things. And when people ask me about stuff, I talk openly about it, and I say it sounds bonkers. If I tell you that I feel like I saw the world being created, you're going to think I'm an absolute loon. But what I'm aware of is just that you got to have the space to, like you say, you can't have this conversation, or you can, but you're wasting this conversation in certain environments with certain people, and the potential is they can start attacking you and this, that, and the other. And this is where I think this space is important to be in and be aware of. I remember watching this guy. He used to go around to car parks and pay people to put gloves on and try and hit him. And he was so good and quick that he just used to shift and move, and they would throw all sorts of punches, and he may get caught every now and then, but generally did nothing. And I like that was it the Gracie style jiu-jitsu? You know, a lot of that's not aggressive, is it? It's put someone in position and they just tap out. It's using your own power. It's like using your own mistake against her.
So it's, I know you've got stuff to get off and do. So what are you doing at the moment? Just plug what you're up to and what you're doing. You got to say.
So the reason that I started off in COVID, because obviously my corporate, I used to go deliver quite a few workshops and do corporate programs. That ceased because there's no something to say. But I've started a program called the Kickstart to Wellness. It's a 360 program, and it consists of giving the people enrolled a 360 approach to their well-being, i.e. your mind, your body, your spirit. Helps you get routine, you build confidence. So it's about goal setting. We would work and set some big goals, really big goals. We break them down into milestones and set tasks each week. We meditate Monday to Friday from 6:30 a.m. just for 20 minutes guided meditation. And we work out 3 times a week. Do HIIT 20-minute workouts.
Nice.
And a 20-minute HIIT workout is proven to have and burn more calories and fat than an
Do you say HIIT or HIIT?
HIIT, high intensity interval training.
Right.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
So 20 minutes 3 times a week. Everybody's got that. You know, you're doing it from your own. You're doing it on Zoom, and it's you feel amazing afterwards. You know. So the premise of the program, that's the main thing I'm working on right now. I have had the corporate work starting to come back in with mind work. That's projectmindwork.org.
Yeah. And you do one-to-one coaching as well? Yeah,
I do one-to-one coaching as well.
So check out the website. I think we'll keep in touch. I'm interested in that retreat you went on.
I talk about that. I could talk about that all day. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll set something up again to have another call and go from there.
Right.
But cheers for coming on. Cheers for being open.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have a chat.
Yeah, but we'll be in contact anyway.
Yeah, we'll have a coffee again this time.
Yeah.
All right, Mason. Cheers, mate. Have a good Sunday.
You too. Bye-bye.
Take care, mate. Bye.